Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Kinsky truck rentals. Details at PlumasLakeSelfStorage.com.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any requests for agenda reorganization?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion prior to voting on consent. I have several questions with regards to that. So I don't need necessarily the items pulled, but I would like an opportunity to answer questions on 3 items. If you need to know what those items are now, I'm happy to give those to you.
Yes.
Okay, 12B, 12E, and 12G.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it okay if we make a motion on the rest of the consent and then go back to those 3?
As you would, Madam President.
I move that we approve all. Wait, we're not there
You
yet.
can't. We're not there yet.
Sorry.
No moving.
Sorry. And then there's also a request to pull action item 13L from the agenda today. Because Assistant Superintendent Guzman is not here. Yes?
Okay, what about, isn't K his as well?
This just has to do with in particular the grant.
So Director Ketz is here on that item on safety plans.
Okay, student reports.
Good evening to the school board and audience. It's been a while. I apologize for not being here at the last meeting. I was really sick for those few days and I was really out of it, so I apologize. But I'm back now and River Valley has been as busy as ever. At the start of the month, we had our Multicultural Day and it was a huge success. We had many clubs participate, such as the Metro Club, and we even had performances from the Punjabi Club. It was an amazing event and our students loved the opportunity to showcase their cultures. Currently, we've been doing a lot of leadership recruitment. We've even taken the time to visit our feeder schools such as AK, Gray Avenue, to talk to the upcoming freshmen about joining leadership and the benefits it has for them. This means our elections are also coming up, and I'm excited to be introducing my successor once those are over. So next year, you guys will be talking to a new school board representative. The year's been moving by really fast, and it's also time for us to start our senior spring events, where we take a few events for the seniors to have their last moments of fun with each other and to say goodbye. Tomorrow, it kicks off with our senior panoramic, where they all line up and get their picture taken. We also have Prom Expo this Friday, where we invite a lot of prom vendors out, and our senior students even model dresses and tux, and students have the opportunity to buy prom tickets, as well as talk to the vendors. This is all in preparation for prom, which is next month, April 20th, and our theme is Tangled in Our Memories. I'm really excited to see how we'll execute it. So far, the planning has been going amazing. Next Friday, we also have our senior movie night. This is a really cool concept we've been doing. Last semester, we watched High School Musical 1 with our seniors. Next week, we will be watching High School Musical 2. And at the end of the year, they'll watch High School Musical 3. And as the students or the actors are graduating, they will be too. So it's a bittersweet moment. Our spring sports have also started. Tonight, our boys volleyball is playing against YC. The game is going on currently. And our Falcon Freaks have also been planning a March Madness tournament, a 5v5 basketball tournament, and our championships are also later in the week. Next week, our Career Center is hosting a FAFSA financial aid workshop during Falcon Hour to help students apply for financial aid for college. This is a great resource for those that are confused or need an extra help for financial aid. Next week are also our midterms. We're beginning to close this quarter up, and students are studying for the big test. I will see you all on the next board meeting, and thank you so much.
Good evening, board members and audience. These past 2 weeks have been very busy. We're planning a prom dress and suit donation drive this Saturday from 11 to 3 on B Street. So if you guys know anybody that has any extra prom dresses or suits, come bring them. And then these suits and dresses, we'll be using them for our prom expo, which will be on Wednesday the 27th. During this event, we will have a fashion show where students will display the donations and boost enthusiasm for prom. And students will actually be able to borrow or wear the dresses or suits to prom if they won't be able to get one. Tonight, our boys take on River Valley, our first home volleyball game. And our baseball and softball teams have been doing excellent this season. Our softball is currently 4-0. And then our track team has been doing really, really good. We have 3 new high jumpers that have been added to our Sky Squad, which is a great honor on the team. Shout out to Coach Burns for putting in so much hard work to the jumpers. Our 4x2 girls relay team, where freshman Riley, sophomore Ari, junior Jewel, and senior Mia broke the school record of 151, and now it's 148. We're super proud of our honkers. So far, the student athlete attendance policy has been enforced very well, and our student athletes have been very attentive to it. We held an 8th grade parent night, which was very well received. Many students and their families came out and got to look around campus and get kind of feel of how our campus works. We held a Punjabi night, and it went very well. Many students from YC and RV showed up to watch performances done by the YC students and the RV students as well, and it was so much fun. Then our school's Key Club handed out letters for International Women's Day to our female staff members last Friday, and it was a lot of fun. We're hosting a bubble ball tournament on the 28th at lunch, and that's about it. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, student recognition for Emma Sanchez.
Thank you. I would like to invite Principal Chris Franzullo from Albert Powell High School to recognize Emma Sanchez, who has received a pretty amazing award.
Good evening, board. Good evening, everybody in attendance. It's with great pleasure that I get to announce Emma Sanchez as a Gold Key recipient for our Regional Scholastic Art and Writing Award. Emma's an avid reader, and this year she began writing creatively. The Scholastic Art and Writing Competition is the nation's longest-running, most prestigious recognition for creative teens. Ms. Sprouse, our visual arts specialist at Albert Powell, has participated in this competition for many years, with students winning silver keys and honorable mentions in visual art. When she announced the competition to her class this year and encouraged Emma to submit artwork, Emma asserted she would like to submit her creative writing instead. Ms. Sprouse had read Emma's poetry this year and encouraged her to apply. Now that Emma has won the Gold Key Award, her writing will be entered into the National Scholastic Competition. Gold Keys or awarded entries are automatically considered for national awards, including gold medal, silver medal, and scholarship awards. So jurors from each region can select up to 5 works to be American Visions or Voices Award nominees, and to be nominated for the American Voices or Visions Award, participants must first earn a gold key in their region. And that's what Emma has done. So I wanted to make sure that she received the recognition that she deserves.
Oh, nice. We don't get to hear the poem?
It's a short story.
Oh, short story.
Hear it. Oh, that'd be nice.
Yes.
We'd love to read it.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Emma.
Yes.
Wait, don't go anywhere. We got to do this.
Everybody gets awards for like the band and all that
Oh,
stuff. And we just feel like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well done, Emma.
Cool, huh?
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
So on that note, we can shift over to staff recognition.
Yes, in continuance of our connect, appreciate, and recognize the staff. Our care program, Rob Pogue is here to introduce.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, staff, and audience members. Tonight, we're excited to recognize some exceptional district staff who help shape our culture of excellence. We know staff recognition increases productivity, promotes employee retention, and encourages continuous improvement. But most of all, our excellent staff help have a positive impact on students and help Yuba City Unified achieve its mission of preparing the foundation for each student to build tomorrow's world. So tonight we have 2 schools being recognized. The first is April Lane. They're not in attendance tonight. Principal Reinhardt is not here. And the person getting the award, Melissa Arnold, Administrative Secretary 2, a long employee in our district, would be getting this award if she was here feeling well and Principal Reinhardt was here. So I'd like to recognize Melissa Arnold, Administrative Secretary 2 from April Lane, with this award tonight. Our school that is here tonight presenting will be Park Avenue Elementary School. Principal Aguilera will present the awards for that school.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, and good evening, audience. My name is Victor Aguilera. I'm a proud principal of Park Avenue Elementary, and I have the honor of recognizing 2 of our amazing teachers on campus. First off, we have Andrea Perez, and as co-avid coordinator and leadership teacher, Andrea's contributions to the school can't be understated. She is a tremendous teacher and molds her students into true leaders on campus. She runs our student leadership group, and the leadership students are in charge and run our Panther of the Month assemblies with little to no help from staff. The confidence that she instills into her students is amazing to watch. We also have Claudia Erejon. Claudia is a remarkable teacher that truly cares about her students. She is creative in her instruction and finds ways to connect the material to all of her students. She intentionally finds ways for her students to collaborate and challenges her students to think critically. As an instructional leader, she does not shy away, well, sometimes, from leading presentations at staff meetings on AVID implementation and worker strategies. Together, these ladies are co-AVID coordinators, and they have overseen our remarkable growth and moving the school towards AVID implementation school-wide and building a college awareness on campus. They are respected leaders on campus and take a system-wide approach and advocate for things that support staff and improve the school as a whole. Park Avenue is lucky to have them on our team, and I am personally thankful for all of their hard work and willingness to be a sounding board whenever I have any questions. Congratulations, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to comments from the public that on items not on the agenda, but I don't believe we have any, right? No? Just on agenda items. Okay. So if anyone wants to leave, you guys can now. It might be a good time. If you want to stay, we're going over quite a bit of stuff. Couple hours worth.
You're gonna scare away.
I mean, it's free.
Free entertainment.
Farewell. Vaya con Dios.
Awesome. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda. Actually, let's just answer your questions first. Yeah?
Okay.
So 12B, contracts and agreements.
So I just had a question. I believe, Mr. Bentley, this is your area of expertise. On the contract with CDW government, I'm seeing a projectors for the PD professional development, $5,789.36. These purchased for PD, or is this like a rental, like for the one
No,
PD?
so that's probably not the best description. It's a projector for the NPR. I forget which school this is for. So it's not a one-time use thing, if that's what you're getting at. The projector was dead. We needed a new one, and we got a new one.
So what's the purpose of writing the description if it's not going to be accurate?
That's a good question.
I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm really just asking.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, okay. That's all my question on that one.
E?
Yes, so that was B, and then my other question was E, ratification of contracts executed pursuant to board policy 3300. And my question with regards to this one is just a minute. Is this replacing another firewall? Because it says new, but is this a replacement for a current, or is this addition? It says new, so I assume it's replacing current. And if so, I'm just curious as to why the previous cost wasn't included. Like, this is what we were paying, this one's new. Instead of paying that, we're going to be paying this.
So I don't know the answer to that. If I can either get back to you in the future, or we can recognize, we do have the Director of Technology in the audience, if you want to recognize him for the answer.
That's
Yes, board, yeah, sure.
Mr. Cookman, you're up.
Well, this week I'm excited because the camera's not on me, so it's on all of you. So we actually have a second firewall that we purchased. Don't want to go into it too extensive for reasons of cybersecurity, but we do have a second firewall that we purchased. We have E-rate funds for that available. It is under E-rate auspices that you can have two firewalls that you purchase with a with E-rate. So that's what we did.
so we have two, and this is a third, or we
We
have
actually
one and
have-
we want a two? 'Cause
We
you haven't
actually
purchased
have
any.
two, but the two is from one vendor.
Okay.
So we have one that we utilize specifically for well, again, don't want to
I
get
don't
too
care. what I'm-
exclusive into it, but yes, there's a purpose for it to have more than one firewall.
Right.
The second firewall that we have, that's the same one, which is a Palo Alto, is a redundant firewall. So if the main Palo Alto fails, we have a secondary backup that we can put in its place. And it's basically, we're unable to use what we call high availability because E-rate doesn't allow it. So we bought a third firewall from a different vendor that has this capability that we can do. So in the case of the primary firewall failing, the secondary firewall kicks
Which is
in.
from the same vendor.
Correct.
And this is a tertiary
Correct.
firewall.
Correct.
So this is this is not replacing anything. It's another layer,
It is.
and it's brand new.
It creates what you call a DMZ, demilitarized zone.
Right,
if you
no,
will.
I understand.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're
That's my
welcome.
question on that one.
Okay. Did
Anybody
you want me
else?
to answer your other question?
Oh,
about the,
yes.
About
Well-
the projector?
No, we've moved on.
Okay.
Can't,
All right.
can't go back.
Okay.
G?
Yes.
Mr. Cookman.
Yes, and then the other question I had with regards to G is, okay, sorry, diligence. Ironic name. Okay, so on the disposal, on the spreadsheet, the second line item, first of all, just in general, there is a lot of IT stuff here. So are we Marie Kondoing the IT department or what's happening? Like, cause there's a ton of IT on here for disposal.
Well, yeah, as you probably know, technology equipment doesn't last terribly long, and so we have a replenishment schedule. I can't, speak to each piece there, but if you have some detailed questions, that's the stuff that we can kind of get answer in advance for you.
Well, my first question, the first thing that came up was like this smart board, because we just bought a ton of those and already we're disposing one.
So I imagine these are older ones, but
Okay,
I might have
because
to.
I thought we were,
Yeah.
I thought we were disposed interactive flat panels, which I see on page 2. But this one is a smart board, and those are the ones we just bought. Unless this is part of a pilot, or
I don't think this one is, but we would have to recognize Robert for that specific line item.
I was just gonna say, I'm pretty sure that they're old ones. There's classes that had different types of technology in them.
Okay, all
I
right.
think it's
I
the
mean,
ones
correct
that
me if
still
I'm
have
wrong.
like the pens.
My question on that is, it looks like a lot of these are being stored at Central Gaither, because it says CG.
Until we
can't
until
imagine
we
they
get
were all from CG.
no stored.
So they're just stored there.
Yes.
Okay.
Until they're disposed of.
Yeah.
Through the surplus process.
Okay, and I also see surplus codes for S and D, but I don't know what the surplus code is for R, page 10.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I don't know the answer to that one. It should be an S or D, I believe.
So do we,
May we ask
Yeah.
Mr. Cookman, since it's his submission? May we recognize Mr. Cookman?
Well, again?
Here I am again. So that code was actually a mistaken code. It's supposed to be auction for A instead of, so it was just a mistake that was put in there when
We're trying to sell it though, right?
we are selling it.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
it's supposed to be, well, S for surplus, right?
okay.
Correct.
I
So
would
it
like
was a
to make a
mistake.
motion that we delay voting on 12G till the mistakes can be made, so we can actually vote on what is supposed to be rather than what this is. Can we put this off to the next board meeting? Because I'm voting on R and R is nothing.
So we could modify it to, if somebody wanted to correct it for code S for those items that currently say code R.
So would you need a motion to modify it to
Yes.
code F? I move that we modify it to code F.
For page
replace
10.
On page 10 and replace the incorrect code R on page 10.
It's also on page 2.
I'll second.
Oh, and page 2.
I'll modify my motion to say any place where it is a mistaken code, we modify it to the correct code.
R to S.
Second.
Okay, on a motion by member Pretty and a second by member Lamb, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And
That's
now
it
can I
from-
get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So motion.
I'll
Second.
second. Oh, sorry.
On a motion by member Ciola and a second by member Lamb, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Action item A, expulsion, suspended contracts, and readmission case. Recommendations, can I get a motion?
Make a motion, we approve. As discussed in the session.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, on a motion by member Quilty and a second by member Pretty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. B, second interim.
Okay. So this is the second interim budget update, and just to go through it. My slides are familiar, so I don't change them too much unless it's really an update to what we're doing. So this is just the budget cycle and the process. We are in the midst of the second budget update for this 23-24 school year, but we're also knee deep in building the budget for the 24-25 school year. So we're going to identify some of the changes to this current budget year. Usually we don't get a lot of changes in the middle of the year. And there's not a lot of changes for this year, but we have to do a multi-year projection every time we do a budget. And so the information is changing for next year. I gave you a preview of that at the first interim. And so we'll kind of go through what some of those changes mean. This slide has not changed too much, but some of the major factors that go into our funding is, of course, our main funding source, the local control funding formula. This year for 23-24, that number has not changed. Our per pupil increase went up 8.22%. That's tied, a lot to the inflation factor that we had. Our actual revenue went up 5.4% because we do have that declining enrollment and declining ADA. The second kind of item that says one time, as we've discussed in the past, the COVID funds are going away. There's about $25 million in the budget this year. We also have Title I carryover of about $4 million. Those are all kind of one-time revenues, and we have one-time expenditures associated with that. What I didn't list that I should have, and I realize that now, is we also had carryover in supplemental concentration funds of about $13 million that is also in this budget. Special education is a big part of our budget, and so that the unfunded portion of that we make a contribution from unrestricted into the restricted resources for special ed is about $23 million. And not a new slide, but I did update the enrollment. So once we get really our enrollment numbers, we get those numbers, we measure those first week in October, our CalPAD CBEDS date. Then we really start updating the enrollment projections for the next couple of years. These numbers have changed a little bit. They've gone down a little bit, especially when we're looking at the projections for next year. The line that says 2024, 11,461, that's a known number. That is this year's number. That's the information we got in October. But the trend is, again, kind of in that downward fashion. And that's obviously putting pressure on our budget because we're funded on attendance, which is
Scott,
very close. Yeah.
Are we expecting any kind of like a COVID baby boom?
Gosh, that's a great question. I hope. I mean, what else do they do? I don't know, but that's usually 5 years out, right? So.
Well, we're almost there.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. I haven't really heard too many people talking about that, but yeah, I understand the question. Yeah.
Well, TK would be an indicator of that, right? Maybe.
The TK is not required.
No.
TK is a kind of a funny one. So that's interesting that I'm sorry to butt in on the conversation, but we keep forecasting that we're going to get kind of a big bump in that area, but we're noticing it's just not taking off quite as we were hoping. I mean, I think a lot of people are probably hesitant sending those 4-year-olds off into a school. So I get it, but those numbers have come in a little bit lower than we were thinking. So just kind of the visual, when you look at our revenues, about $240 million. I kind of noted that in that revenue number, there is some one-time dollars in there. I'd say the big kind of takeaways from this particular slide is the biggest slice of that pie is the local control funding formula. That's why we pay a lot of attention to that. The other thing in this slide is the federal piece is about 15% of the budget. That's usually not the case. Once those COVID dollars go away, that's a much smaller piece of the entire pie. And the expenditure side of things, the biggest 3 slices of that pie are people. That we're in the people business, and close to 85% of our budget is people, typically certificated as teachers and folks with a teaching credential. We have classified salaries, and then the benefits that go along with all of that. So now you put kind of the numbers together. This is where you get into the details. Of course, when we put our budget report together, it's 200 pages. I try to, put it down into a couple slides here to make it a little bit more digestible. As I've spoken in the past, that unrestricted column is where we have the most flexibility. Those are the dollars that really indicate the health of the district. You'll notice that at bottom line, that change in ending fund balance is a negative $27 million, but there's a lot going into that number. So we do have a lot of carryover dollars in the supplemental concentration, about 13 million-ish. And we also have, we settled a lot of salaries this year. So we, both our certificate and our classified folks, really 2 years worth of salary settlements are into that. We knew that was going to happen. That's why, and we set money aside in our ending fund balance to pay for that. So that's why we have such a large dollar amount in negative there. So the ending fund balance is
Wait,
made up.
Sorry, I have to go back to being $25 million in the hole. And that's if we set it aside, then we wouldn't be in the hole, right?
Well, we set it aside kind of like your savings account. So this is talking about income, like your salary, right? But in the bank is where we set it aside.
Oh, it's not talking savings.
Yeah, this is just like the income statement. Let's call it, right?
All right.
So the balance
'Cause
sheet
it looks terrible.
It does look terrible, but this is planned. I mean, again, we had money in the bank from last year we had to spend, right? And we knew we were behind in settling, well, not behind, we were a year behind in settling salaries. And again, that, we were planning for that in the bank. So it's not our ongoing deficit, I guess. That's not what this is.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. So the ending fund balance, the biggest piece of that $65 million ending fund balance is in restricted resources. I have another slide that'll kind of detail that out. And again, we have, those are specific resources they have to do specific things with. And then we have our required state reserve of 3% of your expenditures. We need to set that aside. And then we have about $10 million that, aren't either of those two things. Next slide gets into the detail of that $47 million restricted. So little piece of the ESSER, that's the COVID funds, that's going away. We have until September of that next year to expend all that. And then there are a number of other grants in that ending fund balance number. So those are funding sources that you'll see Ed Services taps into. Those are all, education related funding sources and programs.
Is there a reason we would move $35 million from unrestricted into the restricted column?
Yeah, there is. So there's a lot. So there's a number of programs that are underfunded. The largest, I would say, underfunded program is special education. So we get state and federal funding for special education, and we run, and it's just every school district is in the similar situation. It's not funded to the level that we would all like. It's not funded to the level of what it costs to legally take care of the students in that area. So yeah, so we have to make a contribution from our unrestricted to our restricted resources for special education. That's the biggest slice of that. The other part of that, a big part of that is routine restricted maintenance is in a restricted resource. They don't give us money for that, but they require that we spend at least 3% of our expenses on that. And to fund that, we have to just do this transfer. So there's a couple of just normal things that we have to do. Every district, you're going to see a contribution from unrestricted to restricted for various reasons. I would say those are probably the two biggest one in most districts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this is kind of getting into the multi-year projections now. And there are some significant changes for first interim. We did talk about, so at first interim, changes from first interim. So at first interim, I'm going to take you down to that second line item where we talk about the per student increase in revenues. And I mentioned our number this year was 8.22%. We were expecting at first interim about a 4% bump going into next year. Well, state budget gets tough. That number, we just got information, that number's going down significantly. I was expecting it would go down to 1%. It went down to 0.75%. So that's not, it's not great for any school in the state of California. But for districts that have a declining enrollment, it hits particularly hard. So our revenues will not be going up at all next year. They'll be going down significantly next year. So that is a big budget challenge we have in developing the 24-25 budget. To kind of mitigate, I don't like to make major changes in the budget mid-year. And this is really looking in the out years still, 24-25 and 25-26. But we did make some adjustments at this point, and I noted those as well. We just assumed our supplies and services were going to be pulling back in those areas. Instead of going up a little bit for inflation, we took those down by 1%. We are still working through the budget cycle for 24-25, so that most likely will change as we present the budget to you in June. But we thought it made sense to at least start, looking at some reductions in the out years. Okay, this is kind of the multi-year, a lot of numbers here. We just went through the first column, which is 23-24. 24-25 and 25-26, those are next year. In 24-25 is when we really kind of get out of this COVID funding situation, and a lot of the one-time dollars are going away. So it's a little bit more of a pure budget. We're not expecting the state to be able to, well, we'll get more information on what the budget's going to look like in May, first week in May, and that'll kind of be our final decision-making for the 24-25 budget development process. But we're really not expecting many additional dollars or one-time dollars like we've seen in past years. So it's a little bit more of the true recurring revenues that you'll be seeing in this budget. And you can kind of see that in the top line. So revenues, 242 this year, 198 next year. And then a minimal increase in the third year out there. And what you kind of see at the bottom line there is just kind of that ending fund balance starting to, just reduce. So we are going to have to really look at, our expenses more closely. We're going to have to align our expenses with our revenues going forward. I break this out in more detail on the next page. I usually don't do this, but we're so close to budget development. So very similar slide before that I showed for this year, 23-24, but I broke out the unrestricted and the restricted for next year in this slide, just to really highlight the health of the district is really in that unrestricted column. And this is kind of to your point, Kirsten, next year, if we didn't make any changes, we're looking at a $6.7 million deficit spending. So we do need to, look at that and reduce expenses. We're not going to get there all in 1 year, but I think it's going to take a couple years to get there. So that will be the challenge in budget development this year.
So what are you thinking about when you're saying like making reductions in what areas?
Well, so it's not for me to decide, and we're really going through that process right now. I will say that you probably
look like it's in all, if you're going by slide 11 from 23-24 to 24-25, their projections are for everything to go down, right? Because I'm looking at salaries and benefits, supplies, services, capital outlay, other, and that's all.
Yeah, so you'll see, I mean, a lot of that is tied to the one-time dollars. So some of those are artificially increased for 23. When I say artificially, the real expenses, but that's not what we normally be spending in this year but we have some one-time dollars. So that's why they're up there. But you're right. So I would say there are definitely some schools, classes, whatever, that we have some pretty darn small class sizes. So staffing more to ratios, to board approved ratios is an area. And beyond that, we're just going to have to work the problem and start looking at what makes sense for the district. These are other funds. just kind of a snapshot. We have our child development, child nutrition, the deferred maintenance, and the Melrose Fund, Fund 49. You kind of see the ending fund balances in all those. Not much changes from the first interim on these numbers. And really just kind of to sum it up, I've said it already, but you know, the state budget is challenging right now. I mean, our budget is challenging as well. We have the additional challenge, of course, declining enrollment. We will get our next budget update from the state in early May. And so again, kind of the COLA is expected to go up a little bit, but our revenues are expected, we'll be looking for them they'll be going down. But we do have the ability to meet our current obligations in the next couple of years. So we're certifying as a positive, which is a good thing for the district.
Can I ask, why did you say this may change at second interim when this is your second interim?
Well, so that's funny. Somebody caught that, and I took it out in this presentation, but I printed that out earlier. So yeah, it was something I didn't catch when I printed that out.
We're finding all the typos tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no additional questions, can I get a motion?
Motion to accept the second interim budget as reported.
Second. On a motion by member Ciaciola and a second by member Pretty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. C, Chromebooks replacement project.
Just get settled here. So we replace our 20% of Chromebooks every year, and this is a bid to continue that process.
I have questions.
Okay.
All right. Having looked at the 3 quotes, I have questions about them being apples to apples. I know that bottom of the invoice, CDWG, right, gets the bottom of the invoice, the lowest price, and that's, we are governmentally obligated to go with the lowest price. However, I just have questions with regards to their bids. Sorry, give me a moment to diligent. All right. It says it includes a 3, because Vivacity had a guarantee. They had things go wrong, and they have covers both manufacturer defects and accidental damage. Priority repair for covered devices, et cetera, et cetera. That was included in theirs. But the one that we're going to go with doesn't look like they have any. Oh my gosh, I hate you. Diligent. Okay, sorry, that was to the software. Sorry. I don't see any guarantee. Likewise, it says 3-year ADP. Is that the payroll company? What is that what it is for on the CWD? Is that their guarantee? Because I know bottom of the invoice pricing, it looks like they're cheaper, but if there's no replacement or repair, then are we stepping over dollars to pick up pennies?
That's a good question. Could the board please recognize Robert Cookman? Excellent, thank you.
Thank you for recognizing me again. Yes, ADP is the accidental damage protection. That's what CDW offers, and that's what we ask. We purchase that with all of our Chromebooks.
Okay, but in this quote confirmation, they don't detail exactly what that is, unlike Vivacity that details it out.
Correct. It's what we've purchased in the past from them, the same thing, and it's ADP. So we have asked that from all 3 of the vendors, and that is what we were quoted for. So it's, without going into it too much detail, but pretty much if as long as your Chromebook doesn't get run over by a car, they will replace it, even though that is an accident, but that could be considered on purpose, I guess, or whatever. So.
Okay. And then my other question is, it looks like we've also included cases in this.
Correct. Both of them, actually, all three have cases included in the quote, yes.
Okay, but do we not, are the cases outdated that they're currently having, like, or?
No, these are for new students. So these are students moving from fourth grade to, eighth grade to ninth grade. So they're going to be getting new cases. They're going to high schools from middle schools
Okay,
or elementary.
so the 20% replacement means we're always going to be giving eighth graders going into ninth grade, or
Correct.
that's how we're replacing it.
Correct.
And whether or not like the Chromebooks need it, we're just assuming
We have a 4-year replacement cycle, so that
4-year, then why are we doing 20%, not 25?
4 years for the Chromebooks that are going from the high schools. The fourth grade going through, they will then circle those back around to the first through third grade after that. So, but the ninth graders will get a new Chromebook. And then on the 12th grade, typically, we haven't decided that yet. That hasn't been brought forth yet, whether or not they were going to take them with them when they left or not. We're not sure yet if we're going to do that program or not.
Will they take
Correct.
take the school's property with them?
Well, that would have to be up to the board if it decides that they would like to do that or not.
So it's just like a textbook is our district property, but students take them home. So their Chromebooks are now essentially textbooks and a device for them to use at home.
Sure. Okay. All right. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I move that we approve.
Second. On a motion by member Pretty and a second by member Lamb, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. D, E-rate bid approval request for data transmission.
So there's a number of E-rate things on here, and I don't know if the board fully understands, but E-rate is a grant program that we received really to improve connectivity for school districts. And it is based on, part of it is based on kind of a socioeconomic disadvantaged student. So we get a higher percentage than many districts that helps kind of offset the cost of that. So that's why, as you see a number of these E-rate things, we put the contract amount. We also want to, show you the actual fiscal impact to the district here, which is obviously, more like, anywhere from 10 to 20% of the actual cost. So this is item number 1 in our E-rate replacements.
So for internet service, so is this for all the districts, for all the school sites?
That's correct.
And for Wi-Fi or the hardwire?
Just for the hardwire, kind of to get us, all of our entire district connected to the county office, which then connects into kind of what they call the superhighway, but it's our hardwired connection.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve 13D.
Second. A motion by member Susiola and a second by member Lamb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Do you want us to do E and F together?
I have questions.
Oh, you got questions? Okay, let's do them separately. E.
Shocker. Okay, so, did you have a preamble?
No, I think it's pretty well described there, so.
Okay, quick question. I looked over the X-Act Technology Solutions, but I didn't see the Gigacom. Typically, as the previously mentioned contracts, there were 3 and I could look at them all, but this one, Gigacom, comes in at 4 times the rate of X-Act, but I don't see their bid. I was just wondering why that was. Sorry, I'm getting so verklempt. My eyes are watering.
So that's a good question. I would say probably going forward, I don't think I would show all 3 contracts, just the one that won the bid, because that's the contract we're going to go.
Well, the one I was talking, the reference I was talking about was with regards to AT&T didn't have a competitive one. But with regards to typically when we go out to bid, like the Vivacity and CDW one of the Chromebooks, I can look at all of the bids. But this one's 4 times higher, and I can't help but wonder why that is.
That's a good
Just
question.
in case there's something, if we're not apples to apples here.
Yeah, so when we go out to bid, to be a qualified bid, they have to bid on the specs that we get. So it is an apples to apples information that we get back. I can't, it's funny, we had a discussion about that because that caught my eye as well, right? That is a huge difference in the bids. I don't fully understand why the bid is that different. I will tell you that I've gone out to bid many times, and Gigacom tends to come up on the very high side of those bids often. I've never seen this kind of difference though.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to approve 13E.
Second. Motion by member Suciola and a second by member Lamb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. 13F. Another E-rate. Do you have questions?
Yes. I just didn't know what this was. It says network electronics. What
Yeah.
is that? That is very broad.
That is very broad.
And so that could be like personal cell phones or.
Yeah, I agree. If you don't mind, I'll let Robert kind of give us a little update on that one.
Just sit in the front, Robert.
Thank you again for recognizing me. Yeah, those are for the switches. We're replacing all the internal switches. We replaced the core switches last year. We are replacing the internal switches this year, and that's what that is for.
Switches?
Switches.
Network switches?
Network switches.
Okay, because I looked through this whole thing. I could not find anything. It's very broad.
Yeah, the bid is for network switches. And it's, as with all E-rate bids, when you put them out for a type that you would like, and then.
Aruba equivalent.
Or equivalent,
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you. I make a motion to approve 13F.
Second. A motion by member Suciola and a second by member Pretty. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. 13G, approval of YCHS flooring project.
So I think the description is what I would say anyway. So we are looking to refinish the floor at Yuba-Sutter High School of the gym there, and that is our competitive pricing.
Okay, so my question is, how do you know? Because we don't even have another bid. So we've got YCHS, RVHS, and Tierra Buena all on the same company. And I don't see a competitive bid. And also, having read their contract, so that's my 2 questions. How do you know it's competitive?
So
Because
these are
not.
these are piggyback bids. So the Mass went out for bid, and they many things, and this is one of them. And we got the same pricing per square foot as it was competitively bid. So districts and government agencies have the ability to piggyback onto other bids that have gone out to a competitive bid process, and so we're piggybacking onto the CMAS bid that went out for bid.
So why would we do that?
Well, it saves a lot of time, effort, and money to do that, and it's already competitively bid, so that's typically why we would do that.
Okay. And the other question I have is with regards to this company, because we've had these conversations before about the company that put in the floor at River Valley High School, and they did it poorly. And we're like, well, they're not going to be on that company isn't going to, because it wasn't like they came back and they fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
So my eye is going to go to the guarantee of products and services, because these are expensive, and items. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm lumping all of these together because it's the same company, and these are the 3 separate, right? But the quote and the contract are the same, and the guarantee of service is not only incredibly broad, but in the contract they're pushing off the services or the products that they use, any of our, it's at least the way I read the contract, I'm no lawyer. The way I read the contract is they have to use a whole bunch of different quality of materials, and they are not liable for the the poor execution of the materials therein, is how I read it. So that makes me feel a little vulnerable because these are, right? I mean, when you go with a company, you want to have something in writing that says, if this does not hold up to this specific standard, this guarantee, we will fix it, right? But we don't have, but this company isn't offering it. And so I'm just curious about why we're doing all of this expensive work. And this is not, I mean, these are obviously, this is maintenance type stuff. This isn't one and done, right?
Right.
So we're going to incur this again, but we don't want to incur it for what? What's the cycle? 10 years? 5 years?
It depends what it is, but yeah, 15, 20 years, depending on what it is.
But I mean, I'm just curious as to why there isn't a guarantee of service in what? Well, that's up to the chair to recognize. Or
So, what I can tell you is we've used KY a lot here. They've done really good work for us. I've used them at other my prior districts as well, and they've done really good work for us. The contract is what was competitively bid. We can't go out and change the contract necessarily at this point. I don't know necessarily if there's a company that would give us a better guarantee that they currently have given us, but I do know that KYA is a reputable company that we've had very good service with.
okay, what have they done for us before? Just curious.
I can't list off I can get you a list if you want, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, all right.
I have a question on the Terra Buena flooring project. That the cafeteria, that's the old cafeteria, the room they used to use, the old cafeteria. It's not the new gym.
No.
Okay.
I believe so.
It's the old,
It's a multi-purpose room, not the gym.
it's not the gym, correct? Because that was just built.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Recognize Mark.
Mark here. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. It says main gym, so that's a
That was just built. How many years?
It actually is more furniture.
okay.
The wood floor is defined as was just built,
Right.
and the multi-purpose
Okay, good.
flooring is replaced.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Would there be any problem if we group these three together?
No, I mean, if you guys want to take them separately, that's cool. Up to you.
Well, I make a motion to approve 13G, 13H, and 13I.
So, I'll second.
Okay, on a motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Pretty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, 13G, H, and I are approved. So do we just open the public hearing? You just slam the thingy? It's fantastic. So, 13G is the public hearing. We're gonna go ahead and open the public hearing for adopting, implementing, and a change in level 1 developer fees leveled on residential development and levying fees on commercial and industrial development to fund the construction and reconstruction of school facilities.
So, as it states there, this is, the state sets the rate for developer fees, and this resolution is to bring us up to the state set rate. But yes, if there's anybody here that wants to speak in regards to the hearing, this would be the time.
I don't have any requests. No. Hey, can I close the public hearing?
Yeah, you can close it. I still probably have something to say after.
Yeah, can I close the public hearing? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing.
And so, we've gone through a pretty long process as far as our long-range facilities plan, over a year process, and we had LPA, come to the board several times. We've also heard from Kathy Domenico, our financial advisor, as far as how do you fund your school facilities. There's really three, I would say, main ways. This is one of them. So developer fees is one of the ways that you fund capacity, growth in your community, capacity issues. Capacity issues are permanent buildings. And so as we know, a lot of our buildings are not permanent buildings, they're portable buildings. So these funds could go towards that type of thing. The other areas of funding school facilities is state matching grants. So the state will match whatever you have on a local level to help modernize or expand your facilities. And then, the kind of last method is, or part of all of that is local resources. So what I'm leading up to is, since we've done all this work with our facilities, this isn't really an action item, to be honest with you. I know we need to vote on this, but I just want you to consider that us going out to our community to see if they have interest in looking at supporting investment into our schools. So really to see if the community would be interested in looking at a bond measure at some point. So I have no idea if the board wants to do that or if the community wants to do that, but until we kind of feel it out, we don't really know.
If I remember correctly, it wasn't too long ago that we took some action on developer fees, and we kind of, if I remember correctly, we suspended some of them, or we lessened some of them.
So you stepped it into, so here was the funding level, but you didn't want to make that significant of a jump, so it was an annual increase.
Usually, I don't know if these go up every year, every other year, but there's a cycle that they go on. I just don't recall if it's every year or every other year.
Are we up to the state allowed level at this point?
No, this would get us there.
This would get us there.
Yeah.
But it's not state mandated you have to be at this level.
No.
It's just the highest possible level the state allows you and no higher, right?
That's correct.
So is there any worry that
Superintendent.
this will, have we worked with our partners with city and county government? Is this something that would stunt growth in this area, or does it have any impact that way?
I don't know the answer. Obviously, it is an economic impact. It absolutely is, yes. But it also, I would say,
Because we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face.
Right.
Get some more revenue in, that's great, but if it in turn doesn't help our ADA enrollment come back up, it's not very helpful.
Ask a clarifying question. So, with the developer fees, so you talk about pre-funding sources for facilities, and so I understand the third one, but option 1 and 2, this is the developer fees, the fees going towards our maintenance of our facilities. Since we don't receive any revenue from the state, there has to be some way to fund our deferred maintenance, the maintenance of our buildings and the replacement in the future. Developer fees is one way to do that.
well, developer fees more accurately is not for deferred maintenance, but for capacity. But we have a capacity issue because we don't have permanent housing here. So it's absolutely appropriate to increase our permanent housing because again, 40% of our classrooms are in portable. So it's absolutely good for that purpose, but it's not really good for replacing flooring or roofs of existing buildings. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I would be interested, I'm not making a motion, but I'm just discussing. I would be interested in delaying voting on this until I can see a comparative in our developer fees in Yuba City, Sutter County, compared to outlying areas. Because I don't want to see businesses going over to a neighboring county or other developers developing neighbor counties because it's in their best interest. You wouldn't blame them for going to a place where they can make a higher profit margin. And we do want to attract quality permanent businesses, quality home builders, and that sort of thing. And so I would hate to stunt that without being properly educated as to what's comparative in the area. If everybody else at the state maximum, and even then the business side of me goes, so if we're not at the state maximum, we look pretty attractive to new businesses. And I understand that's probably city council's, job. They look at that as well. But we all live here. That's why we're here. And we care about this city. And again, don't want to step over dollars and pick up pennies.
So I've been here in this discussion and it's always, this is the same conversation that the board has had over the number of years. I think that, and will be the direction of the board in terms of what you would like us to do. I think the one thing is with growth comes the need for facilities in terms of our big buildings that need to be replaced in terms of instruction for our students. So it's kind of that catch-22 that you wrestle with in terms of wanting to make sure that we are working
competitive
with our developer partners, but also at the same time collecting enough funds in order to fund our facilities, because it's one of those things with growth, there comes a need for facilities.
But if no developers come in, we get $0.
Right, so right now is right.
So,
Oh, no, there's no way.
yeah, I don't think a bond would be,
That'd be
top
foolhardy.
here, but if you guys wanna take a shot at that, by all means, go for it. But I guess my concern with regards to this, obviously I know like it's for the benefit of the school district, right? Obviously collecting money. My concern is that at some point, I'd like to see us be able to earmark some of that money for the wants of the community as well, right? Like using the stadium lights as an example. I'm not saying that that's the direction we want to go into or whatnot, but I had this conversation with the superintendent too, of like where can we get the funding for some of those wants or those needs that aren't directly like inside of our $250 million like replacement plan, right? So for this additional dollar that's going to take it from $4 to over $5 a square foot, is it possible to take that extra dollar and then put it into a different type of fund that can be used for some of those wants that the community has? Because if we're not addressing what the community and the students want, good luck with a bond measure.
Can
I hate to say it like that, but
No, but it's true.
true.
We're not,
True.
we're on,
So that's my only hesitancy with that, and I'd like to hear like more of a plan before we go through and approve this. I don't necessarily have a problem approving it, cause like what's the difference between $4 and $5 a square foot? It's not much.
Well, if
When you
you
look at
recall, that part of our master facility plan is that the board will have to give direction regarding your implementation of the first phase. And so with that though, I want to remind everyone, there is going to be a need for funding, whether it's through developer fees or other sources. There is going to be a need because any plan regarding facilities is going to require funding sources, which we're not going to get from the state. So I think that maybe that's part of the discussion in terms of the implementation of the long-term plan, but at the same time, yeah, so there's kind of layers on this, and so I think we're seeking direction.
Yeah, so this is, developer fees are like a drop in the bucket for facilities. I mean, they don't cover anywhere close to the needs that you would need to, to actually improve, modernize, or build your facilities. So, I mean, again, if we need more information, we can absolutely get what you need. But my recommendation would be to absolutely stay at the max, because it's not even close to covering what the needs are of any district. But I absolutely if the board wants to defer this, I'll get whatever information is necessary and we can present it. I would almost say, is the prioritization of the district's desires is kind of separate. I understand it's related, but this doesn't even come close to a fraction of that whole facilities plan. So what does the first stage look like, right? And if when we get closer to implementing, then it's like, okay, what's project one? Let's look at what that looks like.
I guess my hesitancy, I'm gonna be fully transparent. My hesitancy with that is that I feel like maybe if we go that route, we're gonna be so bombarded with all the needs of the district, which is 100% valid, right? Like we have 1,000,001 needs, but I'd like to also be able to plan ahead for the wants as well, right? Like Because those are in the bucket when you look at the $200+ million project that YCSD is to correct.
Well, the board can do whatever it wants when it prioritizes. I mean, it could do wants, needs, whatever, you know, the needs are significant, but yeah.
Can I ask, Scott, what line item on the budget is accounted for by current developer fees? Do you know?
It's in Fund 25.
Okay, so I'm just interested in looking at, oh, I'm in the adopted budget. You, I'll go to the second interim.
Page 63, Miss Laura. 64, thank you.
It also mentions on page 5.
Other local review?
Yep,
Revenue?
revenue, yep.
Review. I can read. All right. Other local revenue, so 206,000 original budget. Actual to date, 338,467 and 31 cents. Projected year total, so less than $500,000. Okay. Before I accept this, I would just like a comparative analysis. So I would like to make a motion to table this till the next board meeting, pending comparative analysis, comparative community analysis.
I'll second.
Okay, on a motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Lamb, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So
May I just ask for clarification? So you're asking staff to do a comparative analysis of other districts in terms of the developer fees that they're currently charging?
Yes.
Okay, clear.
And if there's any other questions pertaining to this particular item, would it be reasonable for you guys to give that to superintendent by Thursday, Friday?
I'd like to know just what is the difference between what we're collecting now if we don't approve moving up with this? I mean, what's the difference in revenue?
So
Oh,
20%.
it's good. I like it.
Ish. Well, I mean, is this just the last year? How much we collected was like 200,000? No.
It was projected, and then there's a to date, and then there's an estimate at the end of the year.
So we got 203,000 this year? Is that what it is?
I think it was 338 or something like that.
Oh,
And then
actual.
we're
We're
expecting
projected
a
at
little.
409.
Yes.
Okay, so 308,000. Divide that by 4, multiply that by 5, and then do the subtractions.
I'll get the information and
Thank you.
yeah, we'll bring it back. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Hey, YCSD school site safety plan.
Thank you. I would like to recognize Director Cutts, who will bring forward the site safety plans for approval, for consideration and approval.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Good to see you again. Thanks for having me. We submitted the site safety plans from each of the K-12 schools. Just a little background on what you have in front of you. The safety plan really has 3 parts. The first part is a assessment of the current status of the school. They review data about the school. Typically, it's the California Healthy Kids Survey. They look at discipline data and then anything else that they might use at their site, which can vary from one to the other. Excuse me. From that, they're supposed to set goals for the school for the year with their safety team and then approved by their site council. Typically, those goals have to revolve at least one around people and then one around the location or place of the school. So those are, like I mentioned, approved by the site council by March 1st. That's why we're here tonight. And then part 2 is the last kind of chapter in your report, and that's the procedures for complying with safety laws. And those are fairly generic. They're not different really from one school site to the next, other than instead of saying district, it might have a specific school name. And then part 3 of the safety plan, which is not with you because it's not really a public document we have, is the emergency safety and evacuation procedures. And those are specific to the site. And that's typically like if there is an intruder or something, like this is our escape route. These are our procedures for all of that. And so we don't publicize those for safety reasons.
Would Would we be able as board members to get a copy of that?
I would assume we could show you, yeah, if you wanted to look at one.
Yes, I would.
Sure.
Any additional questions?
Yes, I have questions. So, just curious, looking at several of these, how did you go about choosing your committees?
They're chosen by the school site themselves, so they have their own safety committee, and so they decide who's on it. A lot of them are, it's the same group that is kind of involved in developing the emergency procedure plan and reviewing it each year, but it's different from site to site.
Okay. And that, because I noticed a varying participation level with regards to community, like parents. Some schools there were a lot of parents, some there were none, some there was one.
Yeah, and it honestly, it's an area that we need to kind of look at for next year, because you look at even like some of these we had approved right at the end of February because we couldn't get a quorum even for the site council to approve it, just because they haven't had enough people to show up. Yeah.
And then my other question was, in my mind, when it goes to safety, I think controlling ingress and egress, right? And then, and so now I see that's more of an emergency. That's not safety. So a lot of this safety, I guess my question is, because I didn't see it in the document, how are you defining safety if not the like bodily, you know, the safety of the campus and the people in there?
Yeah, I think it's pretty broad, right? I mean,
yeah.
When you start to talk about safety, you go way from like, when I step on campus, do I feel safe, to, you know, are there trip hazards and, you know, things like that. So it's really broad. So that's
because a lot of these look like emotional safety.
Yes. Yeah. And some of it is that. So that's a part of it as well. So it's really, and again, it comes back to the school site and like kind of what they want to focus in on for their goals.
Okay. And then my other question is, sorry, I'll be done so you guys can ask your questions too. I couldn't help but notice on some of these, I'm looking at AK on their component 2 action plans for place. So now you're like your physical security. They're listing campus security cameras, which are not monitored, correct?
Correct.
Nobody monitors these cameras. They are just on a recording. So how is that safety?
I think it's safety in that it's a deterrent because people know that we have them. And so hopefully that deters them from wanting to do something they get caught on camera.
Because when they do it, or if they do it, we'll have evidence and it won't be a he said, she said.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's all my questions.
Any other questions?
Come on, guys.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Cameras at YC, are they back up? They got all the licensing issues all fixed?
I'd have to ask Robert. Last I checked that
I heard they weren't working.
They weren't working. I thought that was because of a licensing issue.
So I haven't looked in, I'll be honest, I haven't looked in 2 weeks, but when I looked 2 weeks ago, everything was working there.
Okay, and all the sites, we use a Catapult or some similar to notify, right?
Yes. Yeah. Catapults are a universal that goes up to.
The questions I have is, every adult on campus should be aware of that. I was recently subbing over in Marysville and they had a hard lockdown. But I had no way of knowing what was going on. Well, I did because I have their email, but you know, as a typical adult on campus who's in charge of the safety of the students that they're in charge of, what are we doing to make sure that all adults, including subs, have access to that kind of stuff?
So we did it. We did do a training for every staff member this year to start the school year. I don't have an answer for subs. I'd have to look into that and figure out what, because we don't have a Catapult.
You know, when we had a tri-county consortium going on for subs, I think it was a little bit more streamlined, but
Sure.
Now that we're on our own, it just would be something really, if you're there in charge of a bunch of kids, it would be nice to be able to have all safety features available.
Sure. Yeah. And I know, and sorry.
So that is one of the things that all districts in Senator County, and I believe Yuba County, have gone to the Catapult system. So they're trying to coordinate through the county offices notification. And I do think that's something we can talk to the county office, both of them, regarding sub notification and how that might work, because that would be having a consistent method, because our subs are going through, you know, moving around the different districts, would make sense. So I can pursue that.
It's just, you know,
Yeah, makes sense.
on any given day, I mean, how many subs do we have in the district?
Lot.
So,
I will check with the county office.
We should do that in the sub-trainings.
I would think so.
No, it's a good question, because like, if you're in a classroom, you can obviously call somebody, but if you're subbing for PE and you're out in the middle of the field, it's not like that's gonna
right,
work,
and you
so,
may not even know
sure,
what number to call.
yeah, no, totally.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have a question, but I would say a preference, and that is that since I love that these are developed on site by the people who are there. I love that. And I love bringing in and that sort of thing. It goes back to that. What is that interview they do for the LCAP where they ask students, do you feel safe, kind of thing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you qualify this? Because what does that mean? And that you were referencing that. What was that? What is that?
The California Healthy
The
Kids.
California Healthy Kids Survey. I guess my question would be to get everybody on this, because words have meaning, but they don't always mean the same things to people. And this may be really nerdy of me, but I wish as part of this process, each site would define what it is exactly safety-wise. I see their goals, I see action plans, but none of them identified this is what it means to be safe, you know?
Sure.
So that way I could take a look at it and see, okay, do these meet that? This is what, and if that is that is also the information they are getting out, that's their culture, their individual culture in the schools, which I think is important. Then the students also see, okay, this is what it means to be safe. This is what it means to be safe. So that it's all tied in a neat bow. They are seeing it kind of like PBIS, right? They're seeing it, it's identified, and then it's reinforced through the decisions in the local level. Does that make sense? Or did I just say a lot of words?
No, I don't see why we couldn't add that to the template.
You said a lot of words.
I know, yeah. I'm just trying to close the loop a little bit because, yes, that's all. Thank you.
Get a motion?
I make a motion to approve 13K.
Okay, on a motion by member Suciola and a second by member Craig, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. 13K is removed.
L.
Sorry, 13L is removed. And then we go to M, reduction of classified staff due to lack of funds. We have 2 comments from the public and a letter. So, do I have any statement?
Items posted on the agenda, notice to the public. Under the Brown Act, the board shall entertain comments on any item appearing on the posted agenda. As the board discusses agenda items, audience participation is permitted. Generally, the president will ask board members for their remarks before recognizing requests to speak from the audience. At the president's discretion, agenda items may be considered in other than numerical order. The board will respect the rights of the public to express their viewpoints on matters within the board's jurisdiction. However, comments that are defamatory or that violate the privacy rights of any individuals or students may not be protected by law. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings.
So I guess we will hear from ourselves and then open it up to the public.
Yes, due to the end of the COVID funding, it's necessary to reduce the positions and hours funded by these monies. In addition, there is a resolution that has been prepared to designate classified positions for reduction, including site-funded positions that may not be able to be supported due to budget reductions. So that's what.
Is it possible if we can also discuss what the plan is, if any, or if there's any discussion about reinstating some of these positions? Because obviously a lot of these positions are COVID funding, tied to COVID funds, even the ones that we did at the last board meeting as well. Is there a plan to possibly look into reinstating some of these positions for the upcoming year?
Well, there are multiple conversations happening, and to see whether or not some positions, depending on district priorities, can be reinstated. However, we have a little bit of road to go down before we have that. It's important to note that we had to move in this timeline because of changes in state law that says we have to notify employees by March 15th that don't align with our budgeting timeline. So some things may be recalled, but I can't make those promises right now.
Should we open it up to comments then, or is there any questions, comments from the board, any others? No? Okay, so do you want to read the statement first, and then we'll open it up to the two speakers?
Yes. So letter from Kathy Saldivar. It says, Dear YCSD board members, DO staff, and members of the audience, my name is Kathy Saldivar, and I have worked for YCSD since 1999. My jobs have included sped aid, yard duty, instructional aid, and instructional aid computers. You might wonder about that last job title, instructional aid computers, as you may not have heard it before. There was a time when having a computer person on site seemed to be important in this district. Somehow, someone who could show students and teachers how to use their devices or solve problems on site within minutes. I have held this job since 2004. Over the last 20 years, I have continued to help students and teachers with technology as well as performing library duties. I have also watched all the other schools eliminate this position while Lincoln continued to value this position and keep it in me. Some years later, Lincoln's principal at the time was able to secure me a 6-hour position at the school. I was told this position would be available to me until I decided to leave or retire. Imagine how I felt when a friend told me that my job title, all 6 hours, was on the 3/12/24 board agenda as a position that was being laid off due to lack of funds. Although I now understand the layoff was to be a reduction, not a full layoff, not one person contacted me before this was placed on the agenda for the public to know. I was laid off from this position from Terrabuena in 2009, but a person told me before it happened. What happened to a little humanity in this layoff process? Ensuring employees are at least warned before seeing it on a board agenda or given info about why they're being called into HR. Updating the seniority list and distributing it to all classified employees by their job titles before the layoffs. I never received one. For example, I believe I have instructional aid bumping rights, but I do not know where I am on the seniority list. Recently, I've been made aware of at least 2 employees who are possibly getting bumped, and HR told the employees who would be bumping those positions, but not the employees who are possibly being bumped from those positions. Employees need to be notified before information is shared with others. I just wanted to share how frustrating this layoff process has been. We need to do better.
Okay, I'll recognize Mary Pickering. Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, board, staff, and audience. As you continue through your budget deliberations, I just felt compelled to come and talk about 2 positions that I've had experience with and to describe to you how valuable they are in terms of providing support to schools. The first position, then both of these were reviewed in your last board meeting, not on the current one. The first position are the parent liaisons. I believe that they are improving the social emotional lives of students and establishing trust and improving connections with parents at the school sites. They have a variety of tasks that they do. The first, community-based services at schools. They bring in English as second language classes, citizenship classes, computer classes, parenting classes, food distribution days in conjunction with the Yuba-Sutter Food Bank, clothes closets stocked by donations from community, for example, the Board of Realtors, and school volunteers. And then they also are very instrumental in planning and implementing family activities at school. And this is in cooperation with parent-teacher organizations, student councils, and other groups. Family math night, family arts and crafts, bingo for books, family picnic and dance, field days, game nights, movie nights, extravaganzas, back to school nights, open houses, and holiday support. This is food and gifts for students and their families who are in need. And then finally, in bridging the cultural and language gaps that we have at our school, This is more than just interpreting. Parent liaisons represent the school and are invested in the success of student support services. So they provide valuable assistance during needs assessments, SST meetings, IEPs, 504 plan meetings, and parent consents for Tier 2 and Tier 3 services for social emotional support. The second position, health aid, improving the social emotional lives of students and strengthening parent connections again. And for this position, I believe just the hours have been cut, but they do important work such as monitoring the health conditions of students with diabetes, seizures, asthma, allergies, and students exempt from school activities due to medical conditions. They address and treat somatic complaints, headaches, stomach aches, and other aches and pains, injuries on the playground, not feeling well, crying, nausea. And these health aides are empathic listeners with a desire to help, comfort, and enable the students to return to class. This takes time and a calm atmosphere. By reducing their hours, the front office staff will then need to address these needs, and the atmosphere in the front office sometimes can be very hectic, and it would be very difficult for them to provide the empathy and time that would be needed to help these students. I hope you will consider coming out to schools to observe these two essential support services. I think you'd be very pleased and proud that the district provides them. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, next, Alex Bumpus.
Good evening, board. Thank you for your time. I need to express my deep concern and opposition regarding the recommendation to reduce health aides at K-5 campuses within the Yuba-Sutter Unified School District. As a member of the community and a parent concerned with the well-being and safety of our children, I strongly believe that this decision will have detrimental effects on the health and safety of our students. Health aides play a crucial role in ensuring the physical well-being of students during school hours. They provide central support in administering medications, attending to medical emergencies, and monitoring students and parents. Monitoring students with chronic health conditions. Their presence offers reassurance to both students and parents that prompt and appropriate medical attention is readily available if needed. By reducing health aides at the K-5 campuses, the school district is jeopardizing the safety and welfare of our youngest and most vulnerable students. Without trained professionals on site to address medical needs and emergencies, the risk of accidents, injuries, and medical complications significantly increases. This decision puts an undue burden on teachers and staff who may not have the necessary training or qualifications to handle medical situations effectively. Furthermore, reducing the health aides from K-5 campuses will hinder the educational experience of students with chronic health conditions. These students rely on the support and assistance of health aides to manage their conditions and participate fully in classroom activities. Without adequate support, their academic performance and overall well-being will suffer. Angie Kitchen is the health aide at Lincoln School. My daughter is a second grader with type 1 diabetes. Angie monitors my daughter's sugar even outside of school hours. With our CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor, it shows trends, like if she's going down and gonna have a low. And Angie immediately texts myself and my wife, sorry, about how to follow our specific protocol. And by reducing those hours, she'll still be there, but she won't be there the whole time. And we would not have made it through the COVID, kindergarten and first grade with a type 1 diabetic without having Angie Kitchen there and doing that kind of work and effort. And I apologize for getting emotional, but it's been a dramatic change in our lives with type 1 diabetes, and to have the absolute knowing that Angie's there to monitor my daughter's health and safety makes it possible for me to go to work and do what I have to do, and for my wife to be able to do what she needs to do, to know that that's there. I understand that the budgetary constraints and financial considerations have prompted this recommendation. However, I urge the district to explore an alternative solution to prioritize the safety and welfare of our students. Essential services of K-5 health aides should not be the solution. Cutting those services should not be the solution to the budgetary challenge, especially when the well-being of our children is at stake. I urge the district and the board to oppose the reduction of health aides at K-5 campuses. Our students deserve access to the necessary resources and support systems to thrive academically, socially, and medically. And I urge you to prioritize the safety and well-being of our students and ensure that adequate measures are in place to address their medical needs effectively. Thank you.
Will you refresh me on the process whereby, aside from seniority, these positions were chosen as part of the downsizing? Now, I think in the process, as far as from what I recall, because we started this, what, 2 meetings ago? 2 meetings ago. So was the positions that we were contracting were the ones whereby had expanded or from one-time COVID dollars. So then that's the primary job titles we're going after are ones that we're going back to pre-2020 numbers. Do I have that correct?
I would say the positions that were impacted, yes. I wouldn't say the job titles. I'd say the positions impacted, yes.
Okay.
So yes.
Yes.
You're correct. So the positions that were on the agenda at the last board meeting were those positions pre-COVID, and they were restored back to pre-COVID hours.
Okay.
Is that the question you were asking?
Yes, just the process. I'd like the clarify, and then and also would like to again clarify the purpose of the seniority list. It's not okay, how do I put this? Oh, I don't know how to say it. So pass. Am I the only one with a comment or question? If not, go ahead.
I do have. I have one question.
Yeah.
I know that there are discussions, like you've mentioned, about possibly being able to fund some of these positions back to where we had them. Obviously, we can't make a guarantee at this particular point on how or where the money is going to come from. I guess my question or my concern or my request is that, well, one question is that for the rest of the remainder of this year, the employees will be at their current hour, right?
100% correct. Nothing changes in this school year.
Okay, so that gives us a little bit of time to figure out logistically how to reinstate some of these priorities. My concern with particularly health aides is the liability piece. And obviously there's, I mean, humanity wise, obviously the students' well-being is of utmost importance, right? But as a school district, when you're looking at like legally compliant, making sure that we're addressing the needs of all of our students and whatnot, from that lens or that perspective, there are positions that we have that are that make us as a district more vulnerable, right? So I would like to see some of those things be more prioritized in what we're bringing back full time, if there has to be long-term cuts in general, if that makes sense.
It does. And so what I want to assure you is that you are absolutely right. We're in the process of looking at the board's 3 goals that were set several months ago, making sure that programs and services are in alignment with those goals, getting feedback from our educational partners, including our staff and our community. But want to assure you that decisions made would never, we are not looking to increase our liability. So we clearly have heard from members of the community as well as some of our own staff regarding some of the positions discussed tonight. And so we will, again, we're in budget development and are looking to see if there are options. There may not be options in terms of how some of these positions will be funded. So in the end, the board will be presented with an LCAP as well as a budget to approve. And some of those recommendations may be in there in terms of reinstating positions or not reinstating positions.
So at that point, so two questions, kind of. One question, when would be a realistic time frame to bring it back to the board as far as like we've found a solution or we've not found a solution for those positions or the concerns that have been brought up, not just in today's meeting, but previous meeting as well? Like, so
we're doing those analysis regarding the costs in terms of some of the positions that we've heard from our staff regarding priorities. And I know this is difficult because I've gone through this process several times over my years here. And so we're looking at the priorities in terms of what the staff is saying as well as the community. We're doing cost estimates. We're looking at, are there other ways to fund positions? And I do want to also remind everyone that, you know, in Assistant Superintendent Bentley's presentation, there is a budget deficit we're trying to close that we might not be able to, we know that we will likely not be able to do in 1 year. But again, we are looking at ways to sustain things in the district as we move forward with budget development.
No, totally. I guess my question is more so of like, when will we know and the community be able to get a better understanding of whether or not we have figured out what positions or if there's funding that we are willing to put forth for those positions? Will it be May, June?
So timeline wise, it's unusual. That's a difficult question. So I'm going to try to answer best I can. So normally the normal process would be is you would be seeing the presentation of the LCAP and the budget in June and then approved at the final meeting in June. In this case, I think that I would want to give you updates regarding any solutions we might find in terms of ways to fund positions or other things and what things might need to be eliminated in order to sustain some of the priorities that I'm hearing maybe the board's interest. So knowing that there may be some limited ways to fund some of the positions because they may not be able to be funded out of some of the restricted budget, which then falls to an unrestricted budget. So with that, you have to trade off some things. So you can sustain things, but if you sustain something that's $1 million, you might have to cut something that's $1 million. But we're looking at that, and I understand the questions that are being asked and some of what I'm hearing in terms of possible board priorities. So I will be updating you as we may be able to solve some of these in using some of our restricted dollars.
My other question, if I may, was you had mentioned that site administrators, that there was multiple voices that were heard in this process of deciding which positions, right?
For the second round for today, where there's some site funded positions that we did specifically ask site leaders to give input on, yes.
Okay, so I just want to be sure that our culture as a team is that we regularly seek the input of the site administrators. For example, if we are trying to close that deficit gap, which you know is my heart because that is concerning, and we want to look at it to receive the feedback, honest feedback of the boots on the ground, with regards to maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe Park Avenue is like, yeah, we could work around this position being reduced back to pre-COVID hours. But at another site at Lincoln, they say, we really can't. Can we take it from another? Is it possible to meet our quota or meet our needs another way? Are we having those kinds of conversations prior? I'm sure you are, but I'm just wanting to get on the record.
That exact conversations, speaking specifically of specific types of positions that they are kind of trying to understand by site, by need, what those might be. So
So
I
it's
have-
not a top down.
No, there's a roll of paper on my desk right now that they sticky dotted and wrote notes, and so, yes, we are seeking their input.
Okay,
My
thank you.
concern with that though is the equity piece. I just want it equitable for all school sites.
There you go. That is part of the conversation I had as well in terms of some of the positions in terms of equal access for all students and families. And so that is a conversation we have to look at as well, especially using some of restricted funds. There is a significant requirement with many of the funds that there be equitable throughout the district for all students. So we're trying to navigate all those pieces.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
If there's no other questions or comments from the board, I do have to make a correction I neglected to say. There's a change from the published board agenda to the resolution that was passed. For instructional aid computers, position number 285, and the published agenda, it said a full FTE removal, which would be a layoff. In the past resolution, it's an FTE reduction of 2 hours.
Instead of a full
Instead of a full layoff.
Okay, so when I'm looking at page 2 of BR 2324-029B2, is that what's going to be changed? That page 2 is instructional aid computer position 285
Yes.
FTE 0.75.
Oh, you have the paper copy. The paper copy is the corrected number. So if you're looking online, then it's yes. So it is page 2.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to approve 13M.
I'll second it.
Okay, on a motion by member Ciola and a second by member Pretty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, hearing none, motion carries. I just want to make one question or comment that I have with regards to that, and this is something that Mrs. Henry, you've already kind of mentioned. I just want to make sure that the staff understand the whole bumping piece and the purpose behind like why we're noticing so many additional individuals.
With the law about notification?
Yes. So I'm sorry, I know the motion's already passed, but I think if you can just.
Is this on discussion? Board
Reiterate.
discussion?
Sure. So there's a law that we have to notify people by March 15th of the likelihood or possibility of being laid off. And this is meant to provide people with enough time before the end of the school year, before their checks run out, to possibly find alternative employment. And so because of that, we are noticing people on a much broader range, basically. So we want to, until we understand fully what the budget impacts, we can't say that we have the funds to cover every single job. And in the bumping process, we go by seniority, and at the end of the line, someone will likely be reduced unless we have a budget, unless we have the budget capacity for it. So in order to ensure that we meet the requirements of the law and that and the district is able to set the budget it needs to, I have to notify all employees on the seniority list.
So for example, if I'm an employee that was COVID funded, or I held a position that was COVID funded, and the rest of the board members are in different positions within YCSD, and let's say that they're on that seniority list, and they would all be noticed because I no longer have a position, but maybe I have more seniority than one of them, yes. And then whichever position I have more seniority in is where you would place me, which is why you have to notice all of them.
Yes, and then in addition, you may have held different positions in the district, which you also have seniority for. So I have to notify those people in those positions of classifications as well. And this is according to our contract with our union partners.
And when do you anticipate notifying those individuals that it's not going to be for the next year? So like you've notified 5 of them, but I'm only going to bump 1, or maybe I'm not going to bump any of them, and they'll be back for the following year.
So so let's just say you have a classification, you're a para, and you decide you don't want to bump someone, but someone else behind you is also getting laid off, and they may want to take that position. They have the second seniority. So then after I understand if the person's being bumped, they will get another notification. We will be notifying employees tomorrow. They'll get a certified letter, and it is also going by hand delivery to the sites. And then, but the final thing would happen after we have the budget. And so if it's rescinded, I will send a notification of rescission. If it's not, then we'll say this is a layoff.
And that'll be at the end of June?
Uh,
Ish, that's when we have our budget?
I think we'll understand staffing levels prior to that, but it's more, I can't give an exact date, but we'll do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that'd be nice, because I don't want somebody to commit to another position and then, you know.
So there's a lot of things that happens. I mean, you're 100% right. We don't want to lose talent because of the process, but then we also have people who have a 39-month rehire list. So if you have rights to a job for another 39 months, if you were bumping someone to the seniority, you actually add another 24 months to that. So if they take another job and we say, hey, this position's available, you have rights to a job, not necessarily a location, which is why if someone refuses bumping, that's usually because it's in a different location they don't want to go to. But we have this job, would you like it? And they would say yes or no to that job on the 39-month rehire list. And if they say no, they would still have another 24 months to say another job that comes up. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we try to provide as many opportunities to provide an employment opportunity as possible.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Any board reports, information, or discussion?
Greg and I did the Read Across America, and that was great at Park Avenue. That was fun and fantastic. And no, it's good. Under I guess discussion part of this, I want to make sure
we still have comments from board members.
Oh, okay.
Do you want it in there or you want it now?
I don't know. I guess I don't understand the difference. Go ahead. I'll put it in the comments. No problem.
I don't quite know either, to be honest with you. Okay, well, there's no written communications from the public, and so we'll open it up to community representatives. Ms. Lukens, Ms. Peggy.
Good evening, board members and anybody still out there. I'm Dina Lukens, president of the Yuba-Sutter Teachers Association. I appreciate the challenges of navigating our school district in all times, but in times when there's a reduction in funding because we had a large increase in funding, that this will be challenging as we move forward. I do think it is critical that we continue to seek the input of all stakeholders. I know that there were strong advocacy out there for many of our programs, and the reduction of those programs has significant impacts, and you've heard a few of those this evening. The other thing I'd like to address tonight is with your board action tonight, you took action on many retirements from Yuba-Sutter Unified. I will continue to highlight those as time goes by, but I think it is important tonight to note the retirement of Linda Robinson. Linda Robinson has been with the district since 1993. Linda has guided our students through many years of amazing theatrical performances. And her last such performance from our students, she manages to get amazing things from our kids. But I would encourage you to go see the last performance, James and the Giant Peach at Yuba-Sutter High School. And then I'd also like to recognize this evening Kent Myers. Of those current retirees, Kent Myers is the longest standing member to be retiring this year. There are several that have been around longer, well, not very many, but there are a few that have been longer than Kent, but Kent Myers started Yuba-Sutter Unified in 1985. Kent has been in the social science department of Yuba-Sutter High School all of those years, and he continues to serve as an elder statesman and mentor to many new teachers in the social science department at Yuba-Sutter High School. So I'll continue to highlight other retirees, but it is with gratitude that I mention these two tonight as they have served our students for many years. So thank you.
Good evening, school board members, staff, and community. My name is Peggy Costa, a custodian floater and chief union steward, and I'm reading this statement on behalf of Mercedes Giraldo, Chapter 265 President. Our chapter represents nearly 750 classified bargaining unit members in the Yuba City Unified School District. Mercedes is attending the para conference and cannot be here tonight. First, we'd like to thank you, the district, for last Friday's breakfast and keynote speaker. It was enjoyable and relevant to the times. On February 27th and tonight, you took action to lay off classified employees whose positions were either site or COVID funded. On February 28th and 29th, employees whose positions were part of the February 27th action were contacted by HR staff, inviting them to attend a meeting scheduled for the following week. This meeting was to notify the identified classified employees of the board's decision to lay them off. The decision to call employees to set up a meeting and have them wait for 6 to 8 days until said meeting has led to an excessive amount of stress for the staff affected by these layoffs. Many do not know what's happening and believe they were losing their jobs altogether. At these meetings, a representative of the district read the notice of layoffs out loud to affected employees. For the workers identified as having the benefit of bumping rights due to their position on the seniority list, they were asked to make a career-altering decision within a few minutes of the notification. Furthermore, the employees who are subject to lose their position by being bumped have yet to be notified by the district, but they are hearing via the grapevine that their job is in jeopardy and will be bumped. This is appalling and not okay. These meetings to address an individual's bumping rights should have taken place at a later date, after all notifications to all employees that could be impacted have been delivered, and after collaboration with CSEA had transpired. Some employees, including myself, meaning Mercedes, were either on medical or personal necessity leave when these calls were made. In one case, an employee on leave actually reported to their scheduled meeting. This was completely unprofessional. The district's actions do not illustrate that it values or respects our classified employees, and that is truly distressing. Every day, our classifieds go above and beyond for our students and families in our district. This is the way they have been treated. These staff and positions are still needed for our kids. What will happen to the work that still needs to be done? CSEA has always been collaborative with the district and expects the same in return. In Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in 1989, he states, "Trust is the glue of life. It's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's a foundational principle that holds all relationships. The district has broken this fundamental idea of trust. It's CSEA's hope that we can rebuild this trust. The district's actions now and in the future will determine if this broken trust can be rebuilt." Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from board members?
I just wanted to reiterate, as we've, this is a large amount every other week. You guys, and I'm talking about the cabinet, put together a large amount of information for our decision-making process. And I want to thank you for that. And I just wanted to kind of go back to when we vote on something, if there are mistakes in it, like, then when we vote on them, we're not voting on what is actual. That's where I just want to reiterate what we all know, which is try to make it as accurate as possible. Otherwise, I can't vote on it when the statuses are, because that could be, it's in my garage if I don't have it. Understandably, that was not anything that was intended. This was a total mistake. There were a few tonight. I just wanted to thank you all for the level of the attention to detail that you put and the amount of effort that goes into this, because we also feel it, and I hope we all feel it, that the burden is on us to read and to digest and understand exactly what it is, as when we make decisions, they do reverberate, and we do see the effects of that on the thousands of students and the hundreds of employees that partners that work in this district. And so I want to make the best decisions that we can. In order to do that, we appreciate the quality data. Thank you. And of course, answering all the inane questions. Thank you.
Hey, comments from superintendent?
Just that, and thank you, Dina, for recognizing both Linda and Kent. I did just send you, because I knew I'd gotten it, the information regarding James and the Giant Peach. They begin their performances on March 15th, which I don't know what day that is. The 16th, the 17th, the 22nd, the 23rd, and 24th. So there's an opportunity for one of those dates to fit in. I believe they're at 7:30. It is a true treat to see our students in action and the passion Linda puts into the performances with her students. It's pretty special. So I'm sure she's going to have a hard time these last few performances. So anyways, that's all I have.
Awesome. Okay, next regularly scheduled board meeting is March 26th. Open session is at 7 p.m. We do have a special board meeting on Thursday, the 14th. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
Okay, can I get a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, motion by member Pretty, second by member Ciociola. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Carries.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.